Spring training hasn't officially started yet, but most of the Guardians players are in Goodyear. We will try to guess or rank or one of those things about what we might see in here in Goodyear soon. We won't have to guess what the Guardians are doing for promos this year, and we have to guess less today on where the Guardians might play on TV in 2025.
Tanner Bobby of the Guardians, and you're listening to Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to today's Locked On Guardians. It's Jeff's favorite time of year, where it is still cold in the Midwest, but we get to watch baseball games that don't actually count. But some of the things that are happening down there actually count. We will guess and rank some spring training storylines for the Guardians this year. We will talk about some of their promos, and we have an update on where the Guardians might play when it comes to television. Some of it, anyway. Before we get into today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, if you are a new customer of FanDuel, you can get $100 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Before we get rolling, I'm Justin Latta. I have been covering the Guardians minor league system since 2007. I have written for almost every Cleveland sports blog you can imagine. It's pronounced Lajaway. Wahoo's on first at one time. I was the editor-in-chief of Guardians Baseball Insider for a couple of years. Currently a freelance at the News Herald, the Morning Journal. Next year in Cleveland and my own site and Prospects Live. And here with you, Jeff, for going into our third full season together.
Yeah, I am Jeff Ellis, a.k.a. the Cat Boy. Currently have a cat with me, so can't help but make that joke. Before this, I was a lead draft and prospect analyst nationally at Scout 24/7. I replaced some dude named Kylie something or other at Scout back in the day. It was a little bit of a downgrade, just a little. But now I am here at Locked On to talk about the Guardians and spring training. Oh, how I love I still have memories, though, of I will say, of spring training on Sports Time Ohio, and this not necessarily the spring training, but my cousin sitting there and looking at the stats from it, because it would pop up on the screen. This is pre-internet, so that's you get a stats random pop up on your screen in the morning. It was those were some different days.
I'll do a show later this week. You're doing a solo show on Wednesday. I'll do a solo show Thursday this week, and I will talk about how I watch spring training baseball and how I make it fun and how it matters to me. We'll see if the listeners agree with that or not. I always like spring training just because A, it's baseball, and B, you still have the great unknown. You still don't know what's going to happen. You can still hope until the first guy's elbow gets creaky, or someone's got a strained oblique, all those kind of things. So let's start off with this then. Jeff, what spring training storyline are we going to hear about the most in Goodyear this spring? Is it going to be the battle for the Ohio Cup with Terry Francona in Cincinnati? Because that's my guess. No?
It's going to be whatever.
The Ohio Cup. That's the combination of your two favorite things.
Can you throw in some World Baseball Classic chatter so I can just close this and leave the whole show? No,
that would be an upgrade to spring training if we had the World Baseball Classic. Come on.
It's going to be the inevitable. The big story every year is the dude who's just torching. It always makes me think of Major League 2. We had that discussion a few weeks back. You listened to that episode about how you thought I would think it's a bad movie. But no, they have a great line when they're talking about spring training where it's man, Willie's really hitting these guys hard. And Lou Brown's that guy's going to be bagging groceries in 2 weeks. So it's going to be inevitably about someone who's really performing super well. Who's going to be the I can't even think of who. I don't think Kevin Mitchell had a great spring. Maybe he did that year. My buddy Tom, who's an everydayer, he'll tell me some people below, I'm sure. Comment, who's that guy who had the great spring? It's going to be that, or it's going to be the guy who comes in really toned up and muscular, because it helped Bobby Bradley so much a few years ago. Or, there's always someone that it comes up. It's the storyline is always, who improved physically or who is playing really, really exceptionally well.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what the overarching storyline is. I think it's really going to be just trying to repeat 2024 for the Guardians. I think it's going to be a lot of questions about, did this team do enough over the offseason, which I think we all agree is no. Is your cat is very skeptical about what the spring training storyline is obviously going to be. No, I think it's really going to be. I think we'll just hear a lot of questions about like where's the offense going to come from. Did this team actually do anything over the offseason to solidify their spot?
I mean, I think they're the same spot as they were a year ago. Like that's just kind of my general view where I've been. That I feel like it's a lateral spring, lateral winter.
Yeah, I think to be fair, the storyline should be the fact that this team didn't really improve off of a season they were in the baseball's Final Four. I think that's the storyline we should hear most about. Maybe it won't be the storyline we hear most about, but I think it's the storyline we should talk about is that the team traded a couple of guys and they added, some old friends, and they're hoping for health. They're hoping for age to hold off for a year. I think those are storylines we should hear about and hear what they think about that now that they're going to spring training and they're going to try to compete with this roster. I don't know if that's the one we will, but I think it's the one we should hear about. You touched on something, though, too, I know we always hear about. So let's make a prediction here and now, Jeff. We've heard it from Jason Kipnis in the past. We've heard it from Bobby Bradley in the past. Who is going to get the title in Guardians spring training of best shape of their life? Who's it going to be?
So we know it's not Gabby Arias based on reports from Winter Ball, right? That's the one guy we can eliminate.
Sure.
He's going to be in the best shape of and we know it's not going to be Jose because that's just not Jose's game. So who is the guy?
Never know.
I mean, Jose is Jose.
Maybe he's motivated by not playing that last game and he wants the 40-40, so he's just motivated by that one game.
He's his own cat, and I appreciate him for being his own cat and marching to beat his own drummer, but he has never been. I mean, the story with Jose is he is a baseball rat, and like anything else, he is not necessarily. Not to say that he is like out of shape or not someone who doesn't he puts in the work, but I don't think that's also guys that are smaller. You kind of don't want them to do that. Like that often leads to sometimes because that's the thing. Like how many guys have been in the best shape of their lives, and either they get hurt or they make their swing less effective. Too, so it's like it's such it's biomechanics. There's a lot of parts and pieces to it, and that's why this team has been so focused on that. Best shape of their life. Let's go with Quan because he's probably got the most on the line this year. Between the injury, the stellar first half, and then the second half was probably his worst months of baseball during his pro career. I mean, he was struggling to hit 200 from July through September. Like he has, and he's entering arbitration, and he had a late debut as an older player, and he's undersized. Like he probably has the most on the line. So, I have no inside info on this, but I'm gonna guess Quan because I think he's really got the most to prove in terms of just everything and the chance to make money.
That's a fair one. Yeah, I think Quan does have a lot to prove in terms of durability, and like you said, he's already at arbitration, so I think getting the bigger money and repeating as an all-star is a big way for him to get money. So I think that's a good candidate. I'm going to go with Emmanuel Clase. I don't know why. He's not like he's in bad shape or anything, but I just feel like Emmanuel Clase is going to be the guy that comes in and talks about being prepared to shake off last year. And I don't know. I'm going to go with Emmanuel Clase. My other option would have been to go with Jhonkensy Noel, but I saw Noel not long ago, and he looked the same. So I don't know if I can really say best shape of my life there. I'd be tempted to go with Lane Thomas going into a contract year. Or maybe Brian Rocchio put on some weight. I don't know. I'll go with Emmanuel Clase just for, maybe he's angry after what happened in 2024 and he wants to be better in 2025.
It's going to be Hunter Gaddis. And then after the Browns are forced to trade Myles Garrett, they're going to try to sign Hunter Gaddis to be their new defensive end with as big as that dude is to begin with.
Yeah, who is? That's a good question. Who is? I think Jhonkensy Noel is most likely to replace Myles Garrett if you look at the physical shape.
Yeah, right? Physical traits. I think in size, I think Gaddis is probably the biggest guy in terms of height weight ratio on the roster. But probably I agree, Noel's got more of the physical traits.
Who is going to get the April in Cleveland treatment? Meaning, who's going to have a good spring and we're going to get the, quote unquote, well, it's really hard to hit in Cleveland in April service time. Who is that? Who is that player going to be? Is it going to be a pitcher? Is it going to be a hit? Well, I guess it's a hitter because it's hard to hit in April in Cleveland. So who is that going to be?
Going through, I think it'll be Chase DeLauder. I think they want to give Noel an opportunity. I think they, I know I talked about that they cooled down on some of their early statements, but when they made some of their first moves, they talked a lot about Noel. And, we saw Mandy Bell and like a recent thing talk about how he's got to, we've seen a lot of kind of the cooling of that in some of the things where I think her thing was like he needs to work on making contact or something. I don't want to put words in her mouth that are incorrect, but we've seen some other statements. I think Noel's got a few months here. I think it's kind of like Oscar Gonzalez, who got like 2 months after his great year the year before to prove it, and then they moved on. I think DeLauder gets, and the funny thing though too, while saying that, is like DeLauder Noel might be the future outfield combo anyways, because I'm not sure DeLauder's ever going to hit lefties.
Yeah, that's fair. You're right. I mean, the lefty thing is a big deal for DeLauder. I mean, he is on the camp roster officially this year, so he definitely is a guy who could get that. I'll reveal my answer in a minute, and we'll also talk some more spring training storylines. I'll have Jeff do some blind rankings of the importance of certain storylines, so he hasn't seen these. So we'll have him blind rank the importance of some more spring training storylines on the rest of this episode of Locked On Guardians. NBA season, we know it's going. The Cavs are ripping through the NBA when the game tips off. NBA action is just getting started. It's the midway point, really, at this point. There is no better place to get on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You can place live bets all throughout the game. If you missed the opening tip, you want to bet on that fourth quarter comeback, don't do it when it's the Cavs winning, but you can stay on the action. If you're looking for a big payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay. I talked yesterday about how the Guardians over-under for win total right now is 82.5. On February 11th, I guess I'm going to say I believe in the over. That's very, very risky to say, but hey, they outperformed it last year and, live a little. Viva Las FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So go put $5 down on the Cavs. They're fun. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the National Basketball Association. You see what I did there? National Basketball Association. Not just the NBA, it's the whole association. All right, let's get to a couple of more storylines that I want to talk about in terms of question and answer, and then I'm going to get to have you rank some of these. So we talked about who is going to get the most likely April in Cleveland treatment. I think it is Chase DeLauder. I think if Chase DeLauder has another good March out in Goodyear, I think we'll get the same. Well, it's hard to hit, and it's rookies in Cleveland are tough. I don't know. I feel like that was also I don't want to besmirch Terry Francona because things were good during the Terry Francona era, and he pulled them out of a very, very dark time. I choose to.
He was a fan of veterans. Let's not.
Yes, and I feel like the whole April in Cleveland thing. I mean, I know it's a guys for service time, but I feel like that excuse mostly fell on the veteran. I don't know, Terry Francona thing. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll say DeLauder. I'm with you there, but I think that mostly might have been a Francona thing. So we'll see. We knew last year he wasn't making the roster because everybody who wanted him to, but he was never even in Major League camp. Like he was just there as an extra guy that they really liked having around. So
yeah, so we'll get that with Bazzana.
He was never even. And that was my next question: is how much of Travis Bazzana are we going to see in spring training?
As much as we saw of Chase DeLauder a year ago. I mean, DeLauder got a lot of run.
Quite a bit.
Yeah,
he did.
I think he will get a lot of run. Because why not? Like they didn't. I know you wanted him to be invited to camp, and a lot of teams did invite guys to camp. Cleveland just doesn't operate that way. But this is still a way for fans to get excited to see him, to get those opportunities and reps. And I think there is, a lot of that. And I think there is a world where before this dude's ever called up, he signs an extension. Just like we've seen with Churio. Now, I don't think this team cares about PPI. Don't get me wrong. Like there's a lot of great things with that and the ability to get bonus picks and all that. I mean, heck, the Royals or getting a bonus pick from Bobby Witt being second in the MVP. Like, it's not just rookie of the year. There's a lot of levels to PPI. But, I think when you look at it, an extra year of control is probably of a really good player is worth more than a late first round, a pick in the 30s. Getting control of a player like Bazzana for more than 6 years is more valuable than, again, a pick in the 30s. So I think it's a chance to show him off. And I think with as much value as he placed on coming to this organization, again, I'll remind people, he took less money to come to Cleveland because he wanted to be here. He appreciated all the analytics and everything they do. Like, I still think there's a case where, all that service time manipulation, this might be the guy that it doesn't matter. I think they knew he was their guy for a long time in that draft process. And I think he's the one guy that probably makes the most sense to do one of those extensions with.
I would agree with that, but I also don't think it's going to happen. I really don't see a pre.
I don't either.
For Bazzana. I don't see why he would take one, truthfully.
I mean, Churio took one. Like, if
that's
the deal's
great,
good enough.
But Jackson Churio was an international free agent. Travis Bazzana got a nice big signing bonus.
I mean, so did Churio, did he not? Like, as a international free agent? Like,
probably not as much as Travis Bazzana. When you factor in things like the pre-arb bonus pools now, I just don't see. And Travis Bazzana is going to wind up being a marketable player in terms of brand deals. Like,
not as much, but like Churio got he got $2 million from the Brewers.
What did Travis get?
He got more. Something? Yeah, but I mean, they're both millionaires, and then they were both part of that. Like, some guys are still going to sign. Like, if you give them a big enough deal and it's not buying out too many years,
I don't see why it benefits Travis, but we'll see. I think we will see quite a bit of him in spring training. Though I'm excited for that. I think he will prove that he should get at least some looks by the major league staff, the way DeLauder did a year ago. Who will be the spring breakout star? Not the spring breakout game star, but who will be the breakout player of spring training? Whether it's a prospect, major leaguer, or someone on the fringe, who is going to be that breakout player? The guy that has that great spring training, but maybe there's something there.
Like Ty Freeman a year ago, essentially. Like, that doesn't, I mean, wasn't he the breakout guy? Like, he went from, afterthought to your starting center fielder. Like, isn't that kind of, this is where I'm like completely, like, to a degree at a loss. I'm like, I don't know, it's spring training. Like, who's the, who's the,
I mean, it's about who's going to get the most attention as a player, who's going to get the most attention for their performance or whatever.
I'm not going to say a player. I'm going to say a position. It's going to be a second baseman. It's going to be someone whoever ends up with that role. Like, whoever wins that from camp, it's going to be someone who's the breakout star at second base.
Okay. I'm going to say it's Slade Ciccone. I feel like maybe that's an easy one to talk about, but I think
thought about him.
Cleveland specifically targeted him. We know Tampa Bay wanted him, and I've already seen stuff about them working with him on pitches. He's already been in Goodyear or throwing based off of suggestions that they've made. I think this is a guy that all you got to do with Ciccone is really fix the fastball shape. That's not a hard thing to do, truthfully, if you have the right people in place to identify the changes and help him understand what they are and implement them. The rest of the stuff I think will follow if you fix the fastball shape. So I think Slade Ciccone is going to have an interesting spring training. We're going to talk about him a lot as an arm, and I'll be curious to see where he ends up on there.
I wouldn't be shocked if he made the team as a starter. Like, I really wouldn't.
Yeah. Who is your most interesting non-roster invitee? Whether it's a guy who they just signed off the street or whatever, or Willie Mays Hayes, or if it's a prospect in the system that got an invite to camp. Who's the most interesting non-roster invitee to you?
I think the best non-roster invitee in terms of like good chance to make the roster, I think it might be Vince Velasquez, because he didn't pitch at all last year. He's had some health issues. He was not bad for Pittsburgh when he was healthy. And, they essentially need that long man role, that guy who it's okay if he pitches here some days and there and has some time off. And I don't know if he's necessarily the most interesting, but I'm going to instead take it of like non-roster invitee with the best chance to make the team. I just think you're not going to take, Kobe Allard because you don't want three lefties in the pen. It's a little bit of an overkill. But if you're going for a long man, I think Velasquez might have that opportunity.
I was going to say Velasquez too. I'm very interested in him. But I guess if you're saying that, I will go with Cooper Ingle. Not necessarily a non-roster invitee, but I'll go with Cooper Ingle. I think the fact that Cooper Ingle is going to see a lot of time this spring training, and he's already rising up a lot of prospect lists. And Bo Naylor, not really high on anybody's list in terms of offense right now. I know they believe in him, but I'm interested to see how much of an impression Cooper Ingle can make, given what he did last year, given that there's a lot of people who are interested in what he can do, and the fact that Bo Naylor hasn't quite delivered on his promise.
I wouldn't sleep on Cody Huff either, honestly, with some of the tools and traits we've seen with him.
Yeah. Yeah, Cody Huff too. I'm interested in that as well. He'll be the AAA catcher for sure. All right. Jeff is going to blind rank the rest of the spring training storylines I have written down. We'll see what he thinks ends up being the most important on the rest of today's Locked On Guardians. All right, let's see. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's go 8, 9. I got 9 of these. No, let's go 10. I got 10. So let's go 10. No, let's go 11. I got 11. All right, you ready for this?
Probably not.
So, all right. 1 to 11. All right, so the idea here is to rank the importance of the storyline, how important it is going to be to the team this year, and how important it is in spring training in general. Are you ready? No, you're not ready. Okay.
No.
Rank the importance of this storyline. Carlos Santana's third tour in Cleveland and fighting Father Time from 1 to 11. How important is that storyline to Cleveland?
Oh, I thought I was going to have to write him down. I was typing it there.
I got it.
Okay, so Carlos Santana's. Well, it's hard without knowing the rest, but if I'm putting it in here, I guess
it's a blind ranking. That's how
you. Well, I guess that. I mean, I'll put it a 5. Like a lot of projection systems still believe in him being, an above average bat. There's other things going on. I'm not as concerned with Santana as I know you are.
Okay. So that's the 5th most important storyline for the Guardians. How about Bo Naylor playing without his brother? How important is that going to be as a storyline for the Guardians? That's the 11th. Okay.
Right. I mean, they're adults. Like, do we not understand how adulting works? Like, sometimes I'm always like, same thing. It's like all the people are like, you have to trade for Miles Naylor. Do they realize Miles Naylor hit like $175 last year? It's like Miles Naylor had a really bad season for those who are not paying attention. Like, they knew this was going to happen. I think the only time I was ever worried about breaking up brothers would have been the Morris brothers in the NBA, where they lived together, shared a bank account, and like were attached at the hip. Yeah, they were too much, but they were fine when they ended up on their own. So,
okay. All right, next one. Tristan McKenzie's last chance. How big of a storyline is that for Cleveland?
I'm gonna say 3, maybe even 2. Because if McKenzie is on, he's a dark horse Cy Young candidate if he can get back to where he was. And I don't know what he's going to do right now, but he's this. I mean, I'm counting on him for nothing. But if he is on, you're talking about another potential, like I said, dark horse Cy Young candidate. That's huge.
Yeah, this is a big spring for Tristan McKenzie. This is put up or shut up time for him, and he either comes out of spring training as a Guardian in the rotation, or he might be on another team because we know he's out of options. So it's the last chance for Tristan McKenzie as a Guardian, which is crazy to say. It's going back to 2016 draft, right? No, 2015. This is, I think, his 10th year in the organization if you go back to his draft year. So it's been quite a lot. Wow. All right. The importance of Shane Bieber's recovery from Tommy John.
I'll make this the 4, just because this team was successful with almost the same rotation a year ago with only 2 starts from Bieber. Like, if he recovers and if Tristan is, old Tristan, like all that's huge. Like, they didn't have either of those. I mean, for everyone who wants to sit back and be like, they're dead, they got no chance. It's like, Bieber gave you 2 starts. If he can give you 15 at like even 80% of what he was a year ago, because like what he was a year ago was, if he had pitched that way the whole year, he might have won the Cy Young again. Like, it was really good. Yeah. Those 2 starts were elite. So if you get McKenzie back to being like a 4-win player
on a bad elbow, his elbow is hurting, and on a hurt elbow,
it's like, if you can get Bieber, like I said, 80% of what he showed in those 2 starts for like 15 starts, and you get McKenzie back to like that 4-5-win player. I mean, all of a sudden, think back to 20. Was it? I'm bad with the years. It was what? Last year was 23, so 21. And how good McKenzie and Bieber were that year in the postseason. And then you had Tanner in. Like, yeah, it's a different team. And even a different team than what we saw last year. Like, all of a sudden, if you have those 3 at the top of your rotation, and then you don't have to, you can get a little more depth in your starts too, which then means you don't have to go to the bullpen in the second inning and things like that. Like, it just, maybe I'm undervaluing it. Maybe I'm making a case for this being more valuable, but I guess I'm looking at it in terms of last year, where they didn't get much. So what they get this year could potentially, it just could be a massive elevator between these 2.
It could. I mean, I know the list, so I know how I would rank it. I will say, based on what I know about the rest of the list, I could make a case for this being number 1, but my other concerns about the offense make it seem like something related to the offense should be number 1, because I have less, for whatever reason, I have less questions about the rotation this spring than I do the offense. I have much more questions about the offense. So, all right, next one, the 5th starter battle, the importance of that for the Guardians this year.
This might be a bit surprising. But I'm going to put this like 8th. And the reason I say that is because of the depth. This team went out of their way to add depth, and I'm not convinced that we know how they work. Like, whoever gets this job is going to have it till probably June. But I'm not convinced that whoever has this job, unless they're lights out, is going to keep it. Like, I have massive concerns about Ben Lively and regression, and I don't know who else it's going to be. But they have so many options. We talked about Slade Ciccone. You and I both like him. He might need some more time in AAA to work on those changes. Messick and Peterson are coming fast. Like, it's important, but I just think, unlike a year ago where there was no other options, there's going to be options pretty quickly.
I agree. Like I said, I have less questions about the starting rotation this year. The 5th starter spot will be interesting. And I think the default is McKenzie, unless he's just really bad or hurt in spring training. So I think it's not as high on the list for me this year. All right, next one, extensions for anybody. How important will extensions be this spring for the Guardians? And that, I think the only guys we can really think of are Tanner, which we view as unlikely, and then you got Kate Smith, and we know Kwan's not happening. So how important is this discussion this spring on extensions?
I'm going to put a 10 just because I don't think it's happening, and I've already given away the 11. Like, I especially because of, Jose worked and Clase's worked, but like everything else has burned them badly. And I just don't know. I think they're kind of viewing it as, unless you can lock up a star, it's not worth doing. And I love Tanner to death. I think he is their number 1 starter. I think he is on that cusp of star, but I don't think he is a star, like by their definition or terms.
Yeah, I don't foresee any extensions happening this spring. I'm sure we'll talk about them. I'm sure it'll come up. I would sure like to hear a lot of questions about it in Goodyear, but I think it's very unlikely. Here's one. Can Brian Rocchio carry over his October offensive performance? I don't want to say defense, because obviously the defense in October from Rocchio was not great. But can he carry over his October offensive performance? How important of a storyline is that?
So I put Bieber 4 and Tristan 2, right?
You put Tristan 3, Bieber 4.
Okay, then I'll make this. Okay, I'll make this 2. Because he was not good during the regular season. Like, let's be honest, he was not good offensively. He was a bit of a mess, and he was really inconsistent. And even in the postseason, as much as everyone wants to talk it up, it was all empty, right? It was all like the minute a guy got on base, Rocchio couldn't hit it again. Like, he did not. I don't believe he collected a hit with a guy Or if it was just one or so. Like
I mean, he's your 9 hitter though. You're
I
trying
know,
to turn
but
the
like,
lineup over.
but when he came up in the postseason, he wasn't turning the line over when you had guys on. He could only do it in low stress situations. We talked about some of the bonehead defensive measures when he only makes those bad plays late in games. So like, I have those concerns where it's like, you know, are we going to get the more than nutty professor? Is he going to mature and grow? Because, you know, we kind of hinted at it. A lot of people have talked about
He's
like
clumped.
Arias is kind of thickened up, and you know, Freeman and Schneemann are not really shortstops. They're fine as backups. Like they don't have a lot.
Freeman and Schneemann.
They don't have a great backup choice if Rocchio doesn't play. That's why I was like, I am fine for signing Hassan Kim in case Rocchio doesn't work out. Because if Rocchio doesn't work, I mean, Angel Martinez, like who else? Like there's not a lot of guys
Nico
I feel
Horner.
great about close in the system. Like I think Janao is probably going to, you know, move off that position as he moves up. There's a lot of infielders, but there's actually not a lot of shortstops I feel that I have ranked.
Yeah, it's pretty low. All right. Gabriel Arias' last chance. Talk about Tristan McKenzie's last chance. How important is that storyline for the Guardians this spring? If he can do anything, is he going to stick around? Because we already talked about if he's not a starter, then he's probably not here.
I think it's a 9. I think it's done. I think he's done. I know everydayer DB Collins is going to hate this, and I'm sorry, dude. But
play Arias, free Arias. Well,
yeah,
free somewhere else.
I think.
Let's run through a couple other ones.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get the chance.
Yeah. All right. Storyline I think will come up this spring. Who is going to bat second? Who is going to bat fourth? Now, last year we saw a combination in the playoffs of Fry and Manzardo. Now there's no Fry for at least 2 or 3 months. There's no obvious candidate at second. Maybe it's Manzardo. And who's going to hit fourth? Is it going to be Carlos Santana? We've talked about some lineup machinations before. How big of a storyline will it be this spring? How important is it to figure out who's going to hit second, who's going to hit fourth?
Do I got 5 open?
Or is that was Santana.
Okay, so now I'm going to put 6th. There's just not a lot of options to go with it. It's going to hammer its way out because they don't have a lot. It's probably going to be some platoons. You're going to see guys like Lane Thomas hitting higher versus lefties. Manzardo is going to be, you know, lower. Santana higher. Like it's just the upside is there's just not a lot of ways to handle it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there isn't a lot of it. I would put this number 1 though, is because the lineup to me is the most important thing because I just don't know where runs are going to come from. So to me, I would have put this number 1 based on what I've already seen. So let's see here. What do we got? Emmanuel Clase rebounding from a rough postseason. How important is that?
I'll talk about that. I'll put this 8. I think I still have that open.
You already got 8. You
had 7.
Yeah.
Because I think relievers are such creatures of habit, and I just kind of feel like one of the problems here for him was like being asked to do things he's not used to doing, on top of the huge amount of play and the things he wasn't used to. This is a guy who like zips and everything else is like an ERA over 3 is because what he has done in his career has broken projection systems. Guys don't do what he does. Guys don't put up the numbers he does. Like we don't appreciate just how great Clase is. He literally projection systems can't take him into account because players like him don't exist.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the only thing I'm concerned about too is like workload, like you said, and also I still wonder too, does he need a third pitch? Both the pitches he throws tend to go to glove side. Does he need an arm side run type of pitch? So I don't know. Maybe that's something that's worth talking about. And yeah, I mean, you asked him to do a lot last year. Bullpen hangover is a thing. I worry about that. So I think it's a big one. I don't know if I definitely wouldn't put it. I probably would have put it a little bit higher personally, just because they need him to fill out that bullpen. But I wouldn't put it that high because I still do trust him for the most part. All right, so that leaves 1 left, Jeff, and that means that you think this is the most important storyline this spring training. You haven't done number 1 yet. It's our first Daniel Espino update. The most important storyline this spring will be the first Daniel Espino update, which will be, who knows? No, that was a joke. That's not actually a storyline. I'll be interested to see who asks and what the response is, and it'll probably be he's out for the season. So we'll see. No No, the number one thing you left is the bullpen hangover workload. I think that's going to be a big question this spring.
And I'm honestly, yeah, that would be one, even with everything else, because this team was dragged into the postseason by that bullpen, and who's gonna who's gonna get hurt? Who's gonna have bullpens are as flammable as they come. There's so many questions. That's why you add a Seawald. That's why I don't think they're trading from that bullpen. Because and it's why they added a Nick Enright, who kind of surprised us. But it's like when he's healthy, he's just really steady, and you need to have some depth. And I don't know, the relief prospects in the system are pretty unexciting right now. So it's a situation you kind of need the horses you have to, for the most part, get close to what you had a year ago.
I agree. I would have put this number 2 behind the lineup, but this is still pretty high up there. All right. We didn't have time to do promotions. I'll address that later. You guys probably all seen them. I wanted to get Jeff's blind reaction to some of these promotions, but spring training storylines became more important because this is one thing Jeff loves more than promotions is spring training. So we had to get to that first. The thing I'll throw out, because we did promise this, a TV update. So we did see some info leaked to, I think, season ticket holders. This is where it came from on Monday about the Guardians TV situation. I know a lot of people have been asking. I think there's more details coming this week, but what we do know is that the Guardians will have the CLEguardians.tv. So this is going to be the MLB TV subscription that is just for the Guardians. I believe that is going to be about $100 for the whole season. So
same as the Twins and the Padres, probably $99.99, not counting taxes, service fees, and the like.
Correct. So yeah, you're looking at $100 for the TV, and that's just for Guardians games on the MLB app, CLEguardians.tv, and no blackout restrictions. And the only thing excluding is if they're on Apple TV or Peacock or whatever. I know season ticket holders are getting a discount on that, and I think season ticket holders are also getting a free MLB TV subscription on top of that. If you're people. Season ticket holder, you get free MLB TV. I think it includes MILB TV too. So
yeah, it does.
Pays to be a season ticket holder for sure if you want that. But so that's the first thing we know is that if you're not a season ticket holder, it's about $100 for CLEguardians.tv. And I think they're going to have more announcements this coming week about where else you can see Guardians baseball. But there you go. They have their streaming option seems to be set. Nothing really surprising there yet. We'll have to see what they do in terms of over the air TV. And
this is what the Reds and Brewers went running back at. They took 40% of their previous amount from Bally's.
Yeah, I guess the question is how much that $100 goes to the Guardians. Plus, there's no ads. There's no ads on that, right?
I think there's going to be. I think that's part of the thing that isn't in our calculus. I think you can put ads. You can't do it when it's not local, but in the local one, you can do ads. That's like when you watch something on MLB TV, there can't be ads, but I'm pretty sure the local one can have ads. So there is that with it, from what I understand. So that's something. But yeah, I'll point out Reds and Brewers, I believe, each took 40% of what they're going to have before because they thought that was a better deal. So it's still.
So we'll see. That's the Guardians TV streaming option. We'll hear more about the cable option in the coming days, I'm sure, this week. All right. Well, thanks for listening today. If you got this far, please make sure you're subscribed to get all of our videos on YouTube, and also hit the bell so you never miss a video. Hit the like. That helps us out too. And make sure you're setting up an auto download on audio wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode there. Sign up to be a Locked On Guardians Insider. We had some of these discussions. I know people in the Insiders were asking about TV stuff this week. Enjoying having those discussions, everybody over on the Insiders program. So sign up for that. The link is in the show description for that. And you can email the show at loguardiansshow@gmail.com. If you are not a social media user / YouTube commenter, you can reach us that way as well. Jeff will be with you tomorrow on a solo episode. I'm not sure what Jeff, do you got anything cooked up for tomorrow yet?
I keep kind of hoping that I'll have something to talk about. If not, we're probably going to look at some of my draft players or my prospect rankings. Some of the guys who didn't quite make that top 30. I'll start releasing my top prospects as shorts in the soon amount of times. I'm going to talk some prospects. I might do a historical draft piece. So comment below what year you would like me to cover. I know people don't like history, but maybe we can get around it. In the past, when I was doing this solo, I had success with that. So let's pull something from the vault and do an old school draft breakdown. Give me a year you would like me to discuss.
All right. And also let us know what your spring training storylines that you're looking for coming up soon. Let Jeff know what you want to talk about in terms of spring training so he can talk more about spring training baseball. In the meantime, thank you for listening today. Jeff will be back tomorrow. I'll be with you solo on Thursday. We'll be back together on Friday. And in the meantime, Jeff.
Remember to rate and review, download daily. It helps. And go, Guardians, go.